Hi, welcome to Laura's View and Tarot 2. I'm really glad you're here. Today's date is Friday, October 27th, 2023. Well, tonight's topic is relevant and it's current, but I can't claim that it's happy because earlier this week, on Wednesday the 25th, there was a mass shooting in the state of Maine in the United States. As many of you are probably aware, I relocated to Maine earlier this year. Now, this shooting didn't happen geographically too terribly close to where I've relocated to. I'm 200 miles north. But the reverberations from the shooting can still be felt here in my community. Let me describe a few of them to you. My 3-year-old grandson attends a preschool. There was a policeman guarding the door today. Yesterday, while our local community still had school because we were far enough north that it wasn't part of the school closures that were done in the area of the shooting, there were policemen. If the school was on lockdown, kids were having indoor lunch and recess. I went to my nearby Walmart tonight and there was a plainclothes policeman because I know the two people that are usually the door greeters. I could tell this guy was law enforcement guarding the door. So people are on high alert. Now, let's talk for a minute. You're going to hear in the news people claiming that this is a psyop or a false flappy thing. Be very clear in understanding that that's not saying that there's not real human fatalities involved, because that is the hallmark of a false flappy thing. They'll have an incident or an instigator of the incident that they will program, set off, do whatever he's going or she is going to do. Usually it's a he, but not always, as we know. Okay. There's real human damage. And unfortunately, what I'm hearing is that there were 2 locations where this shooting happened in Lewiston. One was a bar and grill, and one was a rec center, a bowling alley. And I heard that there were children there on a field trip. Needless to say, in my community, all field trips have been canceled. The gunman is still at large. The stories about that said gunman, whose name is Robert Card, he is still at large. And there's a lot of conflicting news coming out. One of the reasons I waited 48 hours before I started the video is sometimes to give anons, who are the truth tellers in our world, a chance to do some digging and for facts to start settling out, the rumors to be sifted away from the truth. One truth we do know is that a residence that was thought might be housing Mr. Card was surrounded for hours. And then they went in and found that it was empty. Great work, FBI. And with thermal heat imaging, don't you think they could have figured out that was an empty house a lot faster? This gave more chance for someone to put some distance between law enforcement and themselves if they wanted to. And when we're told it was empty, I'd personally like to see the footage and count the number of people that go in as opposed to the number of people that come out. Because again, we're trying to find the places where the story starts to unravel, and you can find some information that is they're not willing to share. Again, keep in mind, I am not saying that there weren't real victims and some of them were little people in this tragedy, not at all. But I guess if it boils down to 2 questions, and that this is going to be a video where I do 2 separate tarot reads. If I had to distill it down to 2 questions that I think are on everybody's mind, the first one we'd like to know, just know, was this gunman who was earlier this summer, he was committed for 2 weeks because of hearing voices and thinking that he was being told to do harm to, he was a National Guardsman. And that originally he's, according to reports, he was feeling like he was being told to do something to his fellow company members in the National Guard unit. And then a sister-in-law has gone on record as saying that his paranoia ramped up recently. So I guess my first question for the universe is, was this man in some way, was his mental instability heightened by outside forces? That could be three-letter agency. They've got patents that let them direct voices to people. And there's a lot of weird CIA patents out there. If you want to do a little homework, do a little homework on CIA patents. So I'm just going to ask about outside influences. Or was it simply a mentally unstable person who acted of their own will only? That'll be question number one. And then number two, I would like to know if Robert Card, the person believed to be that mass shooter, if he will be increasing his body count of innocent people before he's caught, or typically these type of crimes, the shooter does away with themselves. It's been rather odd that he had escape plans that were as elaborate as they were. His vehicle was found near a boat ramp. He owned a jet ski. So it sounds like he put some thought into getting away from the law enforcement efforts, and it's puzzling. So I guess what we want to know is, was he triggered by outside forces in some way? And the second question again is going to be, will he be adding to his body count of innocent victims before he stops? So let's see what the cards have to say about those two questions. I'm going to move a cat. I apologize in advance. I switched to a velvet tarot table cover, and Alieska loves it. And of course, being a black table cover and a white cat, they can't resist the color contrast. So I will move a cat, then change the camera, and you can watch me work with cards and we'll find out together. Again, the first question is simply going to be asking for insights and information with regard to, was this man activated or influenced by outside forces? I think if I phrase it like that, we can keep it where we have an open question that the universe can respond to and give us some accuracy. Okay, 1 second. Okay, our first question again is, were there outside forces of some or influences that triggered Mr. Card into this killing spree he went on Wednesday night? So outside forces, not specific, could be anything from a jab ingredient, MK Ultra programming, CIA patents in operation, who knows? Not going to be specific, but let's find out if there's an answer to that question, plus other insights and information the universe wants us to have about question number one. And yes, that is my cat loving away on the velour table cover while I shuffle. And she's leaving fur behind. Okay. First card is the Four of Wands. Then the Two of Swords. Six of Pentacles. Eight of Cups. The Moon. Fool. And the Ten of Wands. Okay, so our question is being indicated by the Four of Wands, and telling us more is the Two of Swords. So these two cards work together. Okay, so what they're telling me is Mr. Card seems to have been monetarily encouraged to do what he did. Currently, he's trying to evade capture. Okay. Let's look at the near future cards for this. The Moon, his life will end before he can be come to trial, and or it will seem to end. There's a possibility if he is considered an asset because of his military training or what have you, he will only have the appearance of leaving this earthly plane and will be given a new identity and role to play. But we're at the ending of Robert Card's story as it stands now. Again, what I'm getting is there was an outside influence, but it was more money involved, not necessarily jab ingredient, that kind of thing. And again, this was the one just asking, were there outside forces influencing him? It's just the money that I'm seeing here. In the near future, though, the cards are reassuring us that he is going to, that person, Robert Card, is not going to be doing more harm under that name. But we'll have to watch. And this is a good thing for Anons to be watching to see. Keep digging, find out if there are 3-letter ties here that where he might be useful and given a brand new start. Okay, I would prefer to have this be referring to the fact that his soul is going to continue on a journey after his life ends. But in this complicated world we live in, I can't rule out the fact that it may be simply that his identity is going to be retired. Okay, but it is going to be retired, and hopefully his soul is going on to a journey, and it's the end of him. But I never discount what 3-letter agency asshats might do. And I didn't say assets, I said asshats. Okay, now we're working on the second of the questions and reads. And this one is asking, before Robert Card is out of commission, will he be causing any more harm to innocent life? I know, and I'm not including in that law enforcement that willingly puts themselves in harm's way. God bless them. But I'm talking about members of the general public of all ages. Will he cause any further harm before he is apprehended or stopped in some form or fashion? Okay, first card is Temperance, the Hierophant, 5 of Pentacles, 5 of Wands, Page of Cups, another 10 of Wands showing up again here, and then the Emperor. Okay. All right. What I'm seeing here is a little more information, because I'm always willing to have the universe give us additional insights and information. I am not seeing, well, there's going to be large groups of law enforcement that are after the gentleman, with the Page of Cups showing up, which is often a card of happy surprises, and then the ending indicated by the 10 of Wands. I'm seeing that he will not increase his victim count unless it's someone that is in ICU currently from Wednesday's event. But moving forward, he's not going to be successful in harming anybody else before he is stopped. Okay. Now, there are forces that would like to apprehend him and use him. Again, he is seen as useful by some shenanigans people. All right. But ultimately, it's going to be the White Hats, the Alliance, in other words, our good law enforcement, who make sure that the nice surprise we have is that he is not adding to his victim count with new harm to others before he's apprehended or stopped. Let's get a couple more cards and see if there's further information, because again, this is pivotal to people that they want to make they're worried that their families and loved ones are safe. Okay. And we've got a victory card here showing up. We have a success card here showing up with 3 of Cups. And a read like this is just simply about you've got some modest cause to celebrate. It's modest because, yes, there are real victims to this tragedy, but there will be some people glad to get the news that he has been stopped in his tracks. And for what it's worth, for any law enforcement that might listen to this, the gentleman has gone off grid. You're not going to find him. He's off grid. So be looking on the trails, cabins, things like that, because he is not, he's not using traditional modes of travel, conveyance, and shelter. So let's recap. We discussed the October 25th mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine, that occurred a couple hundred miles from where I live. And even up here, 200 miles north, the impact is being felt with schools on lockdown and people, all law enforcement on deck. I can see that. I can see increased security and what have you, because the gentleman is still at large 2 days later. So I had 2 questions for the universe. The first one was this man triggered or set off by an outside force? And I got a yes on that. But it was couched to him as lucrative, that he would gain something from it, even if it was just simply peace of mind from the voices that were in his head. Okay. He thought he was going to benefit in some very tangible way from what he did. Now, the second read was, I felt like, more relevant, especially to people that live within an area that needs to be concerned about the fact that the man is still at large. And I said, is his body count going to increase with new victims before he is stopped, apprehended in some way? And I got a no on that. I did see that there is an element of what I call the shenanigans gang that actually wouldn't mind having him taken on board, maybe given a new identity, used again in some fashion, but not as Robert Card. I did see, though, ultimately the outcome is being watched over by the White Hats Alliance. So even though there's an element that might think they could use him again as some sort of a shenanigans asset, it's not going to happen. And the cards that followed that were excellent. We had the Page of Cups, which often talks about a happy surprise. We had the 6 of Wands, which is a victory card, white hat type of victory too. And the fact that it's going to be modest because there are real casualties to this event. And I hate the word casualty when you're talking about that someone's life is ended. There were real victims in this tragedy. Absolutely. But we're going to be relieved and happy to find out that the gentleman is stopped. I don't think he is going to face trial. I think he'll be stopped in some other way or be reported to be stopped in some other way. And I also, like I said, what the cards are telling me is he's gone off grid. So he is not using conventional means of travel, routes of travel, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of off-road vehicle miles. And the man apparently owned a lot of toys. So we call toys the off-road vehicles and things like that up here, snowmobiles, things like that. So he's not using traditional travel routes or shelter. So they need to be checking cabins and trails and things like that for him, because that's going to get more results than checking hotel registries and looking for license plates in parking lots. So that's what the War's View got out of it anyway. Is it right? I hope so, because what it said was the man would not have a further body count and that he would be stopped. And that's what's important. So that's it for this video. I thank you so much for your time, your attention. As you know, I didn't do a share screen because a simple Google search will get you all the information you need to know about where Lewiston is in southern Maine in UVUS, or information about the ongoing manhunt for Robert Card, who has been identified as the perpetrator of this tragedy. And I suppose if I was going to consider myself any kind of a news source, I guess I'd have to say alleged, but again, so it's Robert Card they're looking for, no one else. And apparently he's been identified by all the surveillance footage that was available of the tragedy. So we'll say alleged for the case of, legality. And stay safe out there, folks. Again, we've talked about head on a swivel, know where your exits are, okay? And love your families. We never know when it's our last time to give them that hug, to tell them we love them, to set small petty issues aside and just be thankful they're still in our lives and we're still loved. Until next time, love, light, and everything bright to all of you. Bye.